In life, we encounter people every day, all of whom have stories to share. We rarely take the time to ask people their personal stories, many of which will touch, move, and inspire us in some way. Matt has a passion for making authentic connections and learning about people from all walks of life. He has lived a life of giving back to the community and making a difference in people's lives. Are you ready to meet fascinating people and hear some inspiring stories? The Matt Hilton Show will introduce you to a world of possibilities you never knew existed. Sit back, be present, and enjoy. Here's your host, Matt Hilton.
Hey everyone, Matt Hilton here, the host of the Matt Hilton Show. Thanks for tuning in today. Today's episode is the second part of Ronelle Ianace's story. You don't want to miss it. Stay tuned for a word from our sponsor.
With almost 20 years of real estate experience in the North Texas area, the professional realtors at Hilton Realty Advisors have helped over 500 clients with their housing needs. Hilton Realty Advisors covers all areas of real estate: buying, selling, building, investing, and renting. We deliver the keys to homeownership to all through integrity, love, and joy. Call us today for all of your real estate needs.
In my career before being a realtor, I owned a private investigation firm in Dallas. I don't know if you knew that or not.
No.
But I had that firm for 7 years. And so that's when my eyes started opening, right? Because most of my clients were family law attorneys who would hire me to do surveillance, to go follow around the cheating spouses, the deadbeat parents, it was an interesting business, but it was also one where you become the people that you hang around with.
Yeah. Okay.
And you know, it's one of those things where it wasn't the best environment, right? I mean, I was following around people who were cheating on their spouses and who weren't taking care of their children, and you know, who were filing worker comp claims and then lifting boxes over their head. And it's just, there was so much dishonesty and just yuckiness. I was like, I can't do this for the rest of my life. Like, this is not the career path I want to be on.
Well, it'll tarnish your view of just humanity.
Of life, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and of other human beings. And I know, I see goodness in people.
Yes.
Right?
You do.
And so I didn't want to like turn into someone who always was cynical and always viewed people in the worst way possible.
Right.
So, and when I say, I guess the quote is, your wealth, you know, the 5 people you hang around with the most, you will emulate them in finances, wealth,
that is true.
Your community, all that, right?
That is true. Absolutely.
So want to go back because I don't want everybody to think that I was a liar and a cheater and all that because I was following people around.
That's funny.
But it got to a point where I was just like, I can't do this. And so it's those life transitions. So when Pete did pass and you had that transition in your life.
Yes.
When you dwell on a certain emotion, you can get stuck in that emotion.
Right.
Right?
Absolutely.
We all need time to process. We all need time to be in a certain emotion.
Right.
Did you go through the stages of grief? What did that look like for you?
Yeah, so interesting. My journey through that, because, and I will tear up here, okay? Because I had those just gut-wrenching, horrific moments in my closet most of the time, right? And it wasn't because I felt like I needed to put on any kind of a facade, because God knows everybody understood what I was going through. It was just my faith allowed me to really let Jesus shine through me. And when I grabbed onto that and knew, like what I mentioned earlier, that God had a plan for me and I better be ready for it, and that I needed to be ready for it. Now, I can't say I was conscious about that. That's not fair. Like, God has a plan for, I better be. That wasn't it. But when I look back on that first year, for example, I know that's where it was all coming from. Now, mind you, the year before, we moved this boutique to Denison. And and Pete died at the beginning of the pandemic. Literally the week that the country shut down. Boom. Okay, so which means now I have a business that shut down. However, we had already established an online business, and I did live sales at least once a week, and sometimes twice a week, and sometimes 3 times a week. So here I was. I did have to step into my role online because my income just got slashed. So let's start with that. So I wanted to, and I had employees. I wanted to try to keep employed during that time. So I was online telling my story every day almost during that time. I would tell my story, and I have and still have such an amazing online support system. Even though I'm not online selling clothes daily like I used to be, they rode this wave with me. And they knew what was happening. They knew what was going on inside of me, but yet I really was happy to be with them. So I derived this amazing calm spirit, online through talking to people and selling clothes and modeling clothes. But they knew when I had a hard time because I told them about it, right? They knew when I started dating, a year later. They knew all about that, and they followed me and followed that kind of journey. I got teary-eyed, many times. But I cannot tell you how many people in all facets of my life have come forward and said, you have been such an inspiration to me. To see how you handled that whole situation and that loss and your grief. Even though they knew I grieved, but they didn't really see my grief. And even I had a breakdown last week. I'm driving along and something passes through, right?
Or you hear a song, or you hear, yeah.
Yes. Even though I'm very happy in my life today, we can talk about that. I lost my mother. My mother, 5 months later, who had been living with us, my sister and I, and back and forth in our homes, and my brother in 18 months. So, and my stepmother in there as well. So it was a lot of loss to go through, but every time I knew where I was needed, but I grounded myself in my faith. I just had to go ground there. And when I did, I just felt lifted up. And I was. And I have been. And I've been able to lift up others. Not intentionally, but intrinsically, is that the word I want to say? Intrinsically, throughout this. And that has been such a blessing to me to know that, okay, that's at least some of God's plans for me. And I don't ever stop and ask why. Why did you take him? Why did you? It doesn't matter. Yeah. He knows. Yeah, I don't need to know. I just need to know what you want from me next. You think that's selfish? I don't know if that's selfish or not.
No, I don't at all. And it comes back to stories, right? I believe that everybody's story can inspire other people. Yeah. We just don't have, social media has helped with telling our story.
It really has. It has.
And I believe that, too, people can tell whatever stories they want to from behind a keyboard.
Yeah.
We don't really get to know the person until we have a face-to-face conversation.
That's true.
Right?
That's right. No, that's very true.
So I believe that, stories have meaning, stories can inspire, and we just need a platform. We need some way of doing that. And your story today, I know, is going to inspire someone that's viewing or listening today. Whether it's, to be a powerful woman entrepreneur, or if it's someone, who aspires to be involved in their community. And I want to touch on that a little bit more too. Or someone who has gone, just lost a spouse or a partner or a mother or what. And it's what I heard from you is it's the grounding in your faith, and it's having your support. It's letting people know, hey, I need to talk.
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And you shared your story with people. I mean, you said that earlier, and I think that when people get into their own space and they stay in that space, as I mentioned earlier, and they don't go through the process and let it go all the way, but let it go so you can live.
Exactly. Yeah. I'm not one to get stuck anyway, or just to, stay or get frozen. But I can understand frozen emotions. I mean, that's very real.
It is.
And I felt so blessed not to have those, but I knew why I didn't have them.
So why?
Yeah. Oh, because I had purpose.
Okay.
Right. I had purpose, and God was giving me that.
There we go.
Yeah. He was giving me that confidence and that ability to take put one step in front of another, when it is so difficult. And it is difficult.
Yeah.
It's difficult to sell your home and move out of a community you've lived in for 40 years. Mm-hmm. But in one sense, I didn't think I would ever go back and live in my small hometown. But in one sense, I went home. It was like that was what God prepared for me to do, was to go home and use so much of use that entrepreneurialism, use that connection with the community that, he had already taught me that through Dad, right? Use the relationships. There were new business relationships. And there were good old high school friends that were still there, that welcomed me with open arms. Yeah. And then I guess the cherry on top of the cake was I found the best church for me. I had been a member of Parkway Hills in Plano for 25 years, and I walked into Parkside Baptist Church in Denison, and I felt like it was the same. I didn't skip a beat. It was just so perfect, and I was just so welcomed, and I had the best pastor, and that pastor just married me. So we can talk about that too.
And we will get to that,
great.
because I'm noticing that big old ring on your finger. It's beautiful.
Thank you.
So community involvement. Let's go to that. So, you mentioned something about the Children's Advocacy Center and working with Craig Perry and having that night that was just the first to raise over $1 million. Like, I want to ask about that, because what do you think was the secret sauce there? Or was it a lot of secret sauces that worked together for that to happen?
I could tactically tell you that probably the secret sauce there was Jay Leno that night. And I know that's crazy, because most people are going to give to a cause because of the cause. And most of the money came in from that perspective.
Sure.
But to take it over the top, here's what happened. By bringing in a name entertainer, we sold out, for one thing. Nobody had been doing that in Collin County, maybe in Dallas, I'm not sure at that time. This was 20 years ago, but maybe in Collin County they did. Maybe in Dallas they did, but no one had done that in Collin County. Let's bring in a name entertainer. They sold out. That name entertainer then brought in his personal ability to give, which was, you can auction off 2 tickets to my show, and then we did that to my live show. He was still on the air at the time, and so we bundled that with airfare and hotel and did a great package, and we did that. Well, then, unbeknownst to us, he did you know what, if anybody else wants to come to my show, I'll let you come for $2,000 each that you'll give to the Advocacy Center. So let me think if I can remember this. I believe we sold 25 people raised their hands and raised another $50,000 like that.
Just like that.
Yeah, we weren't planning for that. And they had to get out there and do their own, their own logistics and so forth. We had a donated motorcycle by, who's the big, Harley, right? He autographed it. By putting his autograph on it, it allowed us to raise $40,000 from that motorcycle. So just things like that, thinking about how to creatively use, again, look at what resources do you have? Yeah. How can that turn into more money? So Jay alone paid for himself easily. you know, by the things that he donated and brought in. So that definitely helped take us over the top. It was pretty spectacular. It was a spectacular event as well. But most people are giving because they have had bad experiences in that case, you know, and want to be sure that the next generation of children, you know, are well taken care of, that have had bad experiences in their homes or even outside their home in some of those cases. So anyway, but this is great, out of the Children's Advocacy Center was born an idea that this community of Collin County was ready to raise more money and give more to the community. And what if we could put together a group of donors that could help launch a new organization and educate the Collin County community? Because Collin County was very young back then at philanthropy. But educate the Collin County community on how to give and what were the issues in the county. And Michelle Brennan Hall and Linda Pock were integral in the Children's Advocacy Center raising of that $1 million that night. And Sandy Brennan as well. And they came to me and said, if we could do this, would you and Pete want to be a part of it? And they actually came to 40 families and said, let's seed the organization financially, and then let's recruit other members to come in and help us raise money for the county and give that money back to organizations such as the Advocacy Center and City House and so forth.
Right.
And so there launched Star Children's Charity. So initially with Star, I was a volunteer and a board of directors member. And we were going along, I can't remember, maybe a year and a half into this, and they needed a new executive director and came to me and said, and again, I had been doing my own thing, right? So I had a lot of flexibility and whatever. And they came to me and said, would you come in and take this for about 3 months while we do a search for a new executive director? Would you just come in and lead us? And I'm like, I guess I could do that. And 4 years later, I rotated out. But it was an amazing 4 years. We raised and gave over $4 million back to Collin County. So there was a lot of success that came from that, and new relationships and new donors.
I was about to say,
Collin
you
County.
had to have made a lot of connections during that time period.
Well, also during that time period, you are such a good, lead in. I met an amazing couple by the name of Pat and Emmett Smith. And I met him in someone's home. And we were, it actually was Sandra and Kim Yancey's home. I don't even remember why we were there. I'm sure, I don't know. But may have been, they were dear friends, and there weren't that many of us there. And Pete and I sat across from them and got to know Pat and Emmett at that moment, just through a dinner. I mean, we met through a dinner, we got to know him at that point. But a few weeks later, I got a call from Pat. And she said, I'm looking for someone to come in and do a retreat for me and head up a retreat. I have a nonprofit. No, it wasn't a nonprofit as we turned out, because I filed all of her nonprofit status for her. But she said, I want to do this women's retreat, and there's nobody here in the office that's available to help me. And there was already somebody there running Pat and Emmett Smith Charities, and Kit had said, I can't do both. My plate is full. So I went and met with her and came over and initially went to work for Pat. And I'm like, I guess I'm running nonprofits now, right? I mean, never a plan, but she had a ministry. So I had also done some volunteering in a ministry, a startup ministry called Spark Ministry, and we went to shelters throughout the country and ministered to women. Well, this was a women's ministry. it's like, God, you have prepared me. Doesn't he tell us that in Jeremiah 29:11? The plans I have for you, right? He tells us he's prepared me for everything that I was getting ready to do for Pat and Emmett Smith for the next 6 years.
You were with them for 6 years?
I was there for 6 years. Okay. And one day, I got Pat started in her whole nonprofit efforts and worked with her through writing a book. And so I ran, the business side of her entity. I ran her nonprofit entity. And one day, Emmett walked through and he said, Kit's leaving, and we need somebody to take over Pat and Emmett Smith Charities, and you're going to run it, right? You're going to do that, right? Because when Pat had called me, I said, well, I might have like 40 hours a week, and and so I gave her 20 hours a week, sorry. I might have 20 hours a week. I gave her part-time, and then that, got eaten up and more and more and more, and I said yes to Emmett, and I did some business things for him as well. So we, and we raised money for children with Pat and Emmett Smith Charities. Yeah. So it was always raising money. It was always serving. It was ministry. It was giving back, and talking to other people who were willing to do that through those 6 years.
Yeah.
The business entity was amazing because Pat, wrote this book, and we did this book tour, and we booked speaking engagements for her. Things I'd never done before, but yet I was prepared for, and that was really great. And then I was tired. Yeah. And then I said, Uncle, and that was, I guess I was almost 60.
Yeah. So I want to ask you a question real quick, because you just said something else that I was like, wow, the world is so small. Sandra and Kim Yancey.
Yes.
So I
would pound on my heart, except for there's a mic
in the building next door last Thursday and Friday for eWomen's Speakers conference that we had. And
oh gosh.
Yeah, I was on a podcast panel and part of that. And so I had the pleasure of hearing them both speak.
Yes.
Their daughter speak.
Yes.
It's just, the world is so small, y'all. Like, it's just, so
big Dallas,
we
Texas,
need to talk
right?
more. Yeah.
Yes.
But yeah, they are just amazing people. So how do you know them?
So I think, it's funny because I was talking about how we may have met the other day. They will remember, I think we met through Donna and Terry Tim, who were involved in Star Children's Charity.
Okay.
And I think we met at an event at Donna and Terry's home, and they came in.
Right.
And they came into Donna and Terry's home, and that's where I met them.
Were they part of the 40 of Star Children's Charity? The Yanceys?
No.
Okay.
No, it was past that.
Oh, it was past that.
We'd already closed the founding members.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it was past that. And we just became dear, fast friends. I would lay down my life for either one of them, and they already have for me. I say that, the night Pete's service was on Friday, and that truly is the day that the world stopped here. It was the last anything to be had or held at Parkway Hills Baptist Church, and they locked the doors that day and did not open them for weeks after that because of the pandemic. But so many people that week, I mean, everybody was on edge. In fact, Emmett had been exposed to COVID and was not, and his doctor said, I don't want you to go anywhere for 2 weeks, right? He didn't know. It was like a week earlier, and and so he couldn't come to Pat and Emmett's service. And there were others that were just worried about crowds or travel. I mean, there was just a whole lot of things going on. And Sandra and Kim opened their home the next evening on Saturday night for people to come. And for me to see them. That was the other thing, is we had to get the service done, and the church served lunch, of course, to us. And then I took Pete and married him and buried him in Denison.
Oh, wow.
in the family plot. So we had to get up there. So I couldn't say hello. We didn't have a time, to really, talk to friends and family.
Yeah.
So we had this little, Sandra and Kim opened their home and hosted something for I'll say for Pete.
I look forward to getting to know them better.
Evening. Oh my gosh, they are the dearest people. And so is Brianna. So is their daughter.
Yeah. Oh, she was dynamic.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
That is good stuff, family.
Yeah,
So that's a good
for
pitch
sure.
for eWomen.
There we go.
Good pitch to be a part of that organization.
Most definitely.
Absolutely.
Most definitely. All right, so let's get to ranch life. So how did you meet the rancher? I think as you call him.
The rancher, I have called him the rancher. I'm starting to call him by his first name, and I forget it sometimes. No, I'm just kidding. No, I'm just kidding. After about, Pete had passed for about a year, I was ready to meet some others, and a friend and I went up to Broken Bow, a girlfriend and I, and spent the weekend, and we were sitting around the campfire one night, and she said, she's single. I think we need to get on Match. And I'm like, oh, I hadn't really thought about that, So it came back, and I think that maybe that night I got on Match. Well, I didn't have a really good experience on Match. I met some very nice people, and then I met someone who tried to catfish me. It was, we probably can't tell my story, but he never asked for money. Let me just say, we never got to that point, and I was starting to catch on, but it went on for weeks. And I'm like, there's just something here, and then things weren't adding up. But it was pretty significant initiative on the other end. So I really warn people, like, go read everything you can, because there's signs.
Yes,
if you're getting on these, there's nothing wrong with the sites, but if you're getting on the sites, know the signs.
Beware.
And beware, and then you won't get caught, because there's some great people on there. I met some wonderful, wonderful people through Match. However, when that happened, I got off of Match. And my daughter-in-law said, Ronelle, I hear that Bumble is a place to meet really good people. There's some good people on Bumble, and it not that it couldn't happen, but she said, as a female, the females are more in charge of selecting who they want to date or not. So it's the swipe right, swipe left kind of deal. And so I went, oh, okay, well, I guess I'll go try that. I'm in a small town, so not a whole lot of people to meet, up at CJ's Coffee House. So anyway, that's where I met the rancher, and met him he was my second date, and I was his first. And from then on, we did not date anybody else. It just, I'm not going to say, oh, it was just love at first sight, but we definitely had a connection. And I got to tell you, it was the first time I'd ever dated anybody my own age. No, I'm married. Right. I mean, married somebody my own age. But he was 7 years older, and it's so interesting to have these perspectives. We've seen life from almost the same eyes at the same times in our life.
Sure.
With same music, the same celebrities, the same significant events in the world that, that we've gone through at the same ages. Yeah, really interesting. But, y'all, it's a good thing I'm a Gemini, because there's at least two of me, because here I am. I've, lived in the city life. I was married to a city guy. We didn't miss, cowboys, stars, Maverick games, entertainment. We have all the entertainment venues here, and he's let's go, who are we going to go see next? Restaurants, it's all right here. And he was a man who liked to go, absolutely liked to go. So I have 30 years of liking to go. And then now I've moved to a small town, and now I've met somebody who lives on a ranch, not anywhere near a town. Well, there's some one-horse towns out that way,
right.
But that's it. So we're between Bowie and Nakona, and it's a high fenced. I had to learn all this, right? Whitetail deer ranch. We have built a bunkhouse last year, so the ranchers come in, and the hunters come in and they get to hunt, and he's really good to his deer. I mean, he feeds them well. So they're beautiful. They're really beautiful, and he just put some black buck out there as well.
Black buck.
Black buck. They're the antelope. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So they're a little smaller, but they're more exotic. He didn't have any exotics till the last few months, so he's going to start raising exotics. So I guess I'm stuck on a ranch. Yes, but it's all good. No, I really love it out there. One of the things I've always loved to do is cook, and there are no restaurants. So we cook every night, and that's great. You know, he's gained 20 pounds, and I've stayed the same.
You
but
look
you know,
fabulous.
you're fine. I already had my extra 20, so I just kept them, and all that's been great. And I actually do love it. I mean, I posted on Facebook this morning. I worked from the ranch this morning, and I put a hummingbird feeder right outside the window, right by my desk, and there was a hummingbird, and took a picture. I'm like, this is it is ranch life, and I love it. Not that we don't have hummingbirds in town, because we do, but it's nice to see everything out there. No, it's great.
That's fantastic. Well, you look very happy. You look
very happy. Yeah, I am very happy. So I have a new business. Do you want to know about that?
Yeah, let's talk about that.
Because we had the boutique, right? But there was, during the pandemic, my sister and I were like, what if? We own a boutique, and what if it doesn't come back? When everything opens up, we need something that's our own. And she did a little investigation and research. She's really good at that. Make a long story short, we found out that there wasn't anybody in North Texas, and I say north of Dallas because Dallas has them, that was printing cups. So I forgot my props. They're in the car. I think I told you a while ago, but we would print a logo or a funny saying or game day stuff. We do party cups. Okay. So we print on styrofoam cups, and we print on plastic cups. And we decided that we needed me to focus since I was all over the map. So at the end of last year, we are not in the boutique business anymore, but we're in the cup business.
In the cup business.
And we have just ordered a brand new machine because we've got all we can handle with the machine we have. So we have this real fancy automated thing that's coming. It won't be here till mid-June. That's going to allow us to really take it to the next level.
What's the name of the company?
The name of the company is the Pink Machine.
Okay.
Pink Machine, it's a wholesale company, although we do retail on Zelda's old website, so zeldascups.com. We changed the name to that, Zelda's Cups. Okay. But the Pink Machine is really the core of our business. And we sell to boutiques. We know the boutique business, use what you've got.
There we go.
And we sell to boutiques, we sell to gift stores, drug stores, you pack and ship stores all over the country. Wow. And they buy our product wholesale.
I may have to get some of those for some gifts I give to clients.
You do?
Just different, just swag for the different events that I hold.
You do. Okay. Yeah, we've got to get the word out more, and we will. Once we get the new machine, then we can take them more. We have a place in the World Trade Center. We're in a showroom in World Trade Center, so we already have, we've got a lot going on, but as soon as we get this new machine, I've got a whole new marketing campaign ready to blast out.
Fantastic. Well, and this audience now knows about your company.
Yes, thank you.
And this audience is also going to hear about 3 of your dreams. So I didn't tell you I was going to do this, but I do it with all of my guests at the end of the show. I am the Chief Happiness Officer of a nonprofit called Who Do You Know? And we focus on 3 pillars of people's dreams. We inspire imagination and dreaming within people from all walks of life by making connections.
Okay.
And so the 3 pillars are a person you would like to meet that's living, a place you would like to go, or an experience you would like to have. So under those 3 pillars, it's all about making connections. So I'd like to ask you those questions, and then maybe someone in the audience may know somebody who knows the person you want to meet. They may know of a way for you to get to where you want to go or the experience you want to have. So that's, I'm a dream giver. There we go. So is there a person that you would like to meet that you haven't been able to meet yet that is still living?
Okay, what is so interesting is I have only had 2 people on my bucket list to meet all my life, and I've met them.
You've met them.
Phyllis George was one.
Okay.
I don't know if you're old enough to know who Phyllis George was.
I've heard
She
the
was
name.
Miss America in 1970. She graduated from the University of North Texas, which was my alma mater, is my alma mater, and we were sorority sisters.
Okay.
Not at the same time. Actually, I think she was Miss America 69, but in there, 69, 70. And I was blessed to be able to not only meet her a few years ago, but to serve as her guide while she was visiting Dallas and doing a fundraiser for the University of North Texas. So that was a huge check mark.
Right.
And the other person was President George Bush, George W. Bush, yes. And through Pat Nevitt Smith Charities, we were able to take some high schoolers down to the library and give them a tour of the library. We were in the Oval Office. I mean, I knew I was part of this gig, but we were in the Oval Office down there, and he walked in, and he stood next to one of the guys, and he said, so what do you think about this place? And I'm telling you, Nakai about fell over when he saw that it was that it was President Bush, and he stayed and talked about his time in the presidency in the real Oval Office, and shared with those kids. Took all the questions that they had to ask for him. Oh my word, it was amazing to have one-on-one time, and I consider that we were maybe had 15 people, in there at the same time. I would be, it's horrible to say I'm not a big dreamer. I take every day as it comes. I would want to meet someone who could be a mentor to me, though, and help me take my business to the next level, because I'm not finished.
Okay.
I'm not finished. So I would kind of want to research that. It's funny you would ask that, because I called somebody yesterday and said, you inspire me. I respect you. She lives down in the Houston area. And I have some questions about how you got your business to where it is. And would you spend some time with me? And she did. And she said, call me tomorrow. We'll finish this up. And, that was great. But maybe there's probably a Dallasite that I could talk to you about.
Okay.
How's that?
Well, you let me know.
Okay, I will.
When you,
I will.
So, a place you want to go? Where have you not been yet that you would love to go to?
There's only one place. Isn't that crazy? And it's Vancouver.
Vancouver. Okay.
Yes. Of all the places, I've been around the world. I mean, I've been everywhere. And you and I talked a little bit about that.
Yeah.
And I need to be, because I'm not married to a traveler now. But I say I've seen the world, I've seen the United States, but I would love to go to Vancouver, Washington, and go across the
border there?
The border, thank you very much, into British Columbia, and maybe going over to Banff and see that part of the countries.
So I'm
since
going
it's
to
2
Banff at the end of
countries.
this month.
What?
Yes. So maybe you should join me.
Oh, I should, but I think I'm going to be in Huntsville, Alabama.
Okay.
But yeah, so,
Yeah, I'll let you know how it is.
at an event, yeah.
Okay, so an experience you want to have. That's like going to a Cowboys game on
Gosh.
Thanksgiving Day, or whatever that may be, or jumping out of a perfectly good airplane. So is there an experience that you would like to have that maybe is on that while you're living list?
I've done so much. I can't even. I've been so blessed. And I was blessed to be married to someone who wanted, life was an experience with him.
Sure.
I mean, from coast to coast. I think if there's one more thing I might like to do, and it really is kind of a place to go, is I've been once, and I'd like to go back to Charleston, South Carolina. Oh, I would like to go to the Masters. I know it's not Charleston.
There we go.
I want to go to the Masters. I
Okay.
totally forgot about that. Yes, I do, because
Well, I'm sure there's somebody out there who knows how to get you into the Masters. So we'll work on that.
I've gone online and put my name on the list. You got the lottery that to go even earlier. And my dad went a few years, several years. I was always like, I want to go. Yes, I'd like to go to the Masters golf tournament.
Well, there we go.
Isn't that a
There we
weird
go.
thing to do? But
Not at all.
hey,
So is there anything that you wish I would have asked you that I didn't?
so I think one of the reasons why I am the marketeer I think I got my dad's personality. Listen, you can't grow up in a military family and not be able to walk into the room of strangers and introduce yourself and meet a friend. You've got to make a friend.
Sure.
Or you would be the loneliest person in the world, because you're going to move 3 years later and you're not going to know a soul 3 more years later, into your life. So I grew up in that environment. And it's funny, I will answer your question. But I was, last Saturday, Denison has an all high school get together called the Spring Fling, and all the graduates of any years come together every 2 years. And I was there and just had the best time seeing people from before, from years. Well, Robert Poole and I were talking, and we were talking about the fact that I moved to Denison my senior year in high school, but that's my hometown. Okay. And I said, I didn't really know anybody. I said, I had to get to know everybody. He goes, Ronelle, you were here 2 weeks and you knew everybody in the school. What are you talking about? And I said, I was. But then again, I also was in, my dad had this business. Now I had to be, a beacon for the business, and had to get all of those high school kids in there to
order their mums and
thank you to order their mums, which was only 4 weeks later than when school starts, and then all of a sudden it's homecoming, right?
Wow.
And order their mums, and then prom and everything in between, and Valentine's. So that's kind of how they knew me. They began to know me from that. But what was your question?
You had mentioned to me during
yes. So much of that comes from Dad, right? So Dad, he was just brilliant. Now that I look on it, he was my dad back then, but now that I look back on it, here we are. He also moved to a town and opened a business, and he knew 2 people, right? So he had to get his business name out, his personal name out. So personally, he was joining boards of directors, and he became a gold coat, on the welcome committee at the Chamber of Commerce. And so this is kind of how I learned a lot of that, right? Well, he had an idea to go to the local radio station. He knew we needed presence, right? We needed market presence. He had an idea to go to the local radio station and pitch a daily, a daily event, or kind of a contest. I don't know how. I don't remember how they chose them, but they chose a secretary of the day. And every day, a woman's name would be announced, and he would go deliver a corsage or a bud vase, but they got flowers from Castleberry Florist on that day. And that, I just thought, isn't that the coolest thing?
Brilliant.
It was brilliant. So I don't think he paid much for it, if he paid anything for it, because it was a really cool deal for the radio station to do. Sure. But here, he got himself out there. He met an individual that he gifted flowers to.
At their place of employment.
And met that business. Now he has a presence in that business, and that's how he began to build the business.
Yeah.
So there's all sorts of creative ways to think through how to build a business.
Yeah.
And he was all about it. He did a great job.
That's fantastic.
Great job.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for being a guest here today and for being my friend.
I'm delighted to do both.
Well, thank you.
I'm honored. I am honored to be your friend and also to be here as well.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much.
You bet.
It's a pleasure. And to my audience, thank you for tuning in today. And tune in next week as we have another guest who is a fascinating person with an inspiring story. Take care.
If you'd like to contact Matt or know a fascinating person with an inspiring story that would make a great guest, reach out to the show at themattHiltonshow@gmail.com.